Um, bear with me here. So one of the things you'll see in the Zoom chat is that I put that please reach out to Liz for your welcome email because there wasn't exactly a list of people that we knew were on here. So if you could please reach out to her, you will receive your welcome credentials for SkySlope as soon as this is done. And her email is in there. And also, if you have any questions regarding the account setup specifically and agent-owned processes or team setup, because there are a few options for how teams can be set up, please reach out to Mandy Timmons. Her email is in there as well. And I also put the SkySlope support number, and I will be going over that. But all of those are in the chat, so please reference those. I will be stopping for questions towards the end, and I will try to go as slow as possible, but there is a lot to cover. So just know we are recording this. It will be available to you. So here we go. And I do have everyone muted just to cut down on the background noise. So bear with me here. If you do have a question, please go ahead and put it in the chat, and we will try to get to those at the end. Most of the time, though, I do cover a lot of what the questions will be throughout the presentation. Okay, let me just make sure I am sharing. All right, hopefully everyone can see my screen. And okay, so this is the training for the agents, like I mentioned. And my name is Lindsay Carlin. I had a good joke when I was out in South Carolina last week because my hair doesn't look like this when I'm in your state. It's very, very curly. But I am from California. I moved up to the Sacramento area about 4 years ago, and that is where SkySlope is based. Our headquarters is in Sacramento, California. Everyone is located here, including our support team. And speaking of our support team, we offer 24/7 support. This is probably the #1 thing agents love about our platform, and that is that we have 24/7, 365 days a year support. So if it is a holiday, Christmas Eve, Thanksgiving, 4th of July, if you have a hot sale going on or a hot listing, we have someone here to answer any of your questions. And we have a couple guarantees just to show you that we really want you all to be very successful in our platform. And so we will answer your call on the second ring. We will answer a chat within 10 seconds, and we will respond to an email within 20 minutes. And if we do not hit one of those guaranteed response times, we will send you a $5 Starbucks card each and every time. And they are very good at their job, so it's very hard to get that Starbucks card, but it happens occasionally. But they're a very great team. They're all located in Sacramento, just like me. We're all in the same building. We do not outsource any of our services. Part of why we offer this 24/7 support is where we came from. This slide is sort of the of why SkySlope is even in existence. Our founder and CEO, Tyler Smith, was a very top producing agent and broker in the Sacramento area. He was a 30 under 30 for Realtor Magazine. I forget the exact year, my apologies. But but everything out there did not suit his new needs that was on the market. And, you know, he was buried in administrative paperwork, and that's not why he became an agent. So that is where SkySlope came from. It was his brainchild. He had it created for what he wanted it to do to make him faster and more efficient, both as an agent and as a broker. So that is what we're doing here. We basically streamline everything into one place to make it as easy as possible for you as an agent to get your deals in the system. So just to clarify, because there was some confusion as to when I was out in South Carolina last week, this is not replacing Zip Forms. If you notice, Zip Forms is still the platform where you get your documents. You still get your forms there. That's not going away. So SkySlope is where you're going to be entering all of your transactions and listings for compliance. And so basically, eventually SkySlope will replace that. Oops, sorry, I'm drawing on my board here. I apologize. Not sure what's happening there. SkySlope is going to be replacing that docs email that you currently send everything into. That is what we're doing here. It's a new platform. It is not replacing Zip Forms in any way, shape, or form. The only thing that's going away that I'm sure you've heard is that the corporate agent-owned DocuSign account, so for e-signature, that is going away in 3 days on August 31st. So that is the one thing that if you wanted to purchase your own, you'd have to purchase your own DocuSign account, or you could purchase the DigiSign e-signature tool that we have within SkySlope. And I will be reviewing that. And again, if you have any questions about that, please contact Mandy. Her email is in the chat. So within a new platform, there are a couple things that are the main things you need to do within the platform, and then there's a lot that it does in addition to that. I am not receiving anything. If people could maybe just confirm that you can see my screen. I am sharing. I'm getting a note that someone's not receiving anything. Nothing's being sent. It's just a shared screen. And there's a chat function. Okay, perfect. Thank you very much for that. I'll put them again in the chat if you need that information that I have at the top. So I'll share that again. But the 2 simple steps are basically what are the bare minimum of what you need to know. So if you think about when the smartphone first came out, like for me personally, it was hard to navigate a screen versus a dial pad with numbers. So on day 1, I really just needed to focus on how do I make a call, maybe how do I send a text, and then I added all the extra things on like apps and settings and all the fun stuff that the smartphone does as I got more familiar. And that's how we treat SkySlope. So on day 1, really the main things you need to know are how do you enter in your property data and how do you turn in your documents to your office. Once you know how to do that, everything else is, the extras that can make you more efficient with your job, and I'll show you all of those as well. But really, these are the things that you have to do in order to get paid. Everything else is an extra. Okay, so if we just focus on that, I know I'm going to shove a lot of information at you, and I apologize in advance. That's why we have it recorded, and we have a lot of other resources available to you. But we're going to focus on these main things. So I'm going to go ahead and jump into my demo account here. I don't know what these lines are. I apologize. So this is SkySlope. Like I said in the beginning of the chat, I put the email for Liz. Please reach out to her to get your welcome credentials, and you will be sent an email to set your own password and log into the system. Once you log in, you will see this. This is SkySlope. You will see your logo up here on the upper left instead of SkySlope. That will be agent-owned. It will be branded to you. But I'm in my demo account, so it's branded to SkySlope. So a couple things about this main dashboard here. The logo right here, this is your home button. So every time you click this, it just comes right back to this main dashboard. And it refreshes. The other thing I want to point out is this little lady right here with the little headset. If you hover over that, it's support. This is the shortcut to support. So not only, I put the 800 number in the chat, you will also have it in the welcome email that you receive to set your password. So go ahead and save that in your contacts, maybe in your phone, very easy access to get to them. But also you can hit this shortcut to get to the main support page. If you click this big blue button, you can ask them anything you want. What's for breakfast? Because it's breakfast time around here. I'm going to go ahead and chat with them real quick. But we also have a knowledge base in case chat is maybe not the thing you want to do. Look, I'm on with Elijah. Here he comes. He's going to tell me what he had for breakfast. If you're sick of typing something out in the chat, you can always have him call you directly. Just a coffee. Oh, eat something. Anyway, they're very responsive. Notice that was less than 10 seconds, so I'm not getting a Starbucks card today. But you can have them call you directly if you're sick of typing. And they also have a share screen option as well, where they can just see exactly what you're doing instead of having to explain what you're doing in the platform. So they're very responsive and very helpful. Please utilize them whenever you get stuck. Don't sit there pulling your hair out. Reach out. They will always help you. Again, 24/7. We also have this knowledge base here. If you wanted to search certain things by a keyword, it will pull from this tutorial base down here, SkySlope tutorials. So if you're the kind of person that doesn't like interacting with others, you want to do your own research, you absolutely can. There's a whole bevy of information here specifically for property files. There's a lot of smaller articles here that go over exactly what you need to do. So like, how do I upload documents? It gives you all the options. It also gives step-by-step guide with an animated imagery in here. Very easy to follow. Okay, so this is what we're going to be going over today, but if you forget or want to come back, you can absolutely access this or just reach out to support by clicking that button. There's also a shortcut to sign into SkySlope here. You do not need to be logged in to access this. You can bookmark the main page and always come back to that 24/7 support. It is a public site, so you don't have to be logged in. So again, that was right here, the lady with the headset. Okay. So I'm going to go through the process of creating a brand new listing in the system. If you notice right at the top, we have manage listings right here, manage and create listings, excuse me, and then we have create and manage transactions. Those are the main two categories within SkySlope. Everything is either a listing or a transaction. Listings are obviously that. Anything that you are representing the seller, that's a listing. Anything in contract is a transaction. So if you're representing the buyer only and you have an accepted offer, that is a transaction. And also if you have a an accepted offer from on the seller side, you would then you would then convert your listing to a transaction. So everything eventually ends up in the transaction side. And I'll walk through all of how to do this. But we're going to walk through creating a brand new listing right now. So I'm going to start right here on this icon. And I am going to pull in. So this is one of our newer features this year. This is Sky. She is your listing assistant. She will just basically answer her questions. This is step one. How do you enter in your property data? So I'm going to punch my property data in there, pull it from the Google options, and hit let's go. Now, if your property is on the MLS, it should show up here as an option. It does not need to be entered on the MLS to create files in SkySlope. This is just an extra, an extra integration that makes it faster, but you do not have to have it on the MLS first in order to create a listing within SkySlope. It's just an extra. So this is mine. I noticed that that's the right address, and I'm going to go ahead, yeah, this is my listing. Otherwise, it's not, and keep going. This question is asking you what type of listing. So you will see different options here. I believe you only have one option and it'll say listing. This is custom per account. This is my demo account, so mine are different than yours. You will see listing and go ahead and choose that. Oops, I already have one in the system with that exact one. Bear with me here. I need to choose a different property. I've used this one before. Sorry about that. Here we go. Let's choose this one. All right. But what this option is doing is it's pulling the right checklist. So what documents are required for you to turn in every time you have a new listing? That's what this question is. So for you, you will choose the listing. For me, I choose resale. Just keep answering Sky's questions, and you will have this listing created in no time. So I'm going to go ahead and confirm the price, enter in my commissions. You can also switch to flat rate right there. I'm going to enter in my expiration date, the year built, and what source of the deal. There's quite a few options here. This is a personal referral because this is one of my best friends. You can survive sellers, and if you make a mistake on any of this, you can always make changes once you're in the file as well. You can also switch to a company seller here. So I'm going to go ahead and go to the next question. And does everything look okay? And again, you can make changes here, so it's not set in stone, but I'm going to go ahead and hit create my listing. And that was step one. How do you enter in all your property data? And that automatically brings you into the file. So really what I did was I answered all the questions for these first two tabs up here, the listing information and the contacts. So again, if you need to make any changes, go back to these, no problem. Now I'm in step two. How do I upload my documents or turn them into the office? So I'm not sure on the phone how many people still drive their paper documents into the office, but this can replace that. This can make it so that you can do your job very remotely. So if you want to go out of town, if you want to go on vacation and you have some listing that has to still, have your eyes on, you can absolutely do your job from pretty much anywhere as long as you have a computer and an internet connection. So with that, this is the checklist I chose. So for me, that was resale. For you, it will be listing, and it will have the required documents that you have to turn in every time. They're always the same, and then you'll see the if applicable items, on a case-by-case basis, like lead paint, things like that. But just from default, the get-go, I have to have these three uploaded. There's a couple options to get documents in the system. You see there's an attach button here, and that's just like any browse button on your on any platform, where you just choose from your desktop or somewhere on your computer and upload a file individually. But what I wanted to highlight is this email address right here. So I'm going to highlight, oops, I'm going to highlight this. So what this email address does is every time you create a file in the system, SkySlope generates this automatic, unique, property-specific email address. So you can see this is based on the address. It says Winding Hollow Lane, 2407, but there's a 1 after it because I've used this property in the past. So this will always be unique to your particular file. Even if you sell this exact same property for these same people 2 years from now, it will be a new email address for your new file. It will not go to the old one, okay? So it's always unique for your individual file. But what this email address does is anything you send to this email is going to show up in this file. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this email, and I'm going to demonstrate what that means. So I'm sure many of you still get wet signatures on paper and maybe scan them in, or your client prints them out, scans them, and then sends you an email. Whatever the case may be, there is an easy way to get that in the platform. So I have an email from my client. There he is, Jimmy, where he forwarded me the listing packet. So it's an attachment in an email. And so what I'm going to do with this is I could download it and then just upload directly, but I'm going to forward this email and I'm going to paste in that email address, because what it's going to do is send that attachment directly to my file. So I'm going to go ahead and hit send, and it's also going to capture this email as well. So not only can I send attachments, but I can also send email messages. So let me go back to the file and show you exactly what that did. So I'm in the checklist right now. This is technically where you turn things in. You have to attach them one by one to the checklist to make sure that you are uploading those exact documents. This documents area sort of acts as your own filing cabinet. Anything you send to that email address, there it is, shows up in the documents area. Now again, the documents area is like a filing cabinet. You can put anything and everything in here and it lives with this file. And for compliance purposes, there are no delete buttons here. You cannot delete anything from the system, and that is strictly for compliance. We don't want anything to be deleted from here. So even if you send in the wrong contract to the wrong file, you can move it to a trash folder, but other than that, and then it lives here in this trash folder, but really there's no deleting from the system, okay? But also that means that you won't lose anything. So I can keep anything I want in this documents area. And there's that email that I sent in. So it automatically detached that attachment that I had in the email and put it in this documents area. But I haven't turned it into my office yet because I need to assign it to my checklist. That is how I notify the office staff that there are files for them to look at and approve. But this is one big PDF. So I'm sure a lot of you have experienced this. When you scan something, it just turns everything into one big PDF file. And I need to split this out. So we have a split tool built in here to make this easy for you. So if I click on split, it gives me a preview of my 18-page document there. And I can zoom in. And I can see on page 1 is my listing agreement. So over here where it has the name, I'm going to go ahead and just start typing out listing agreement. And it pulls up anything in the checklist that has that name. So I want the required items, so this is the one I'm going to choose because that's the one in the checklist that I need to assign this one to. And all I need to do now is set the pages. So if I use this next page toggle, I know this is around 8 pages. Yep, because on page 9 starts the next one. So this goes to 8. And over here, I want agency agreement. And again, these are demo documents. Yours are named differently, I'm sure. And then I'm going to go ahead and find the next document. Okay, so that one goes to 11, and then on page 12 starts the last one, and that's the seller advisory. You can keep adding rows, however many this is you need to split. I'm going to leave, we'll say this one is to the 18 page, and I'm done. Now, like I said, you can't delete anything, so this listing packet that you originally sent in is not going anywhere. So if you messed up, you can easily resplit this. It's not going anywhere. These 3 documents are the new ones that I'm creating, and I'm going to hit this split and assign button, and it's going to do exactly that. It splits my original document into 3 new, and it's going to automatically assign it to the checklist. So I'm going to go back to the checklist now and show you how that changed. So these used to be red because they were required. Now they are yellow and in review because I have attached the documents to the checklist. That is that step 2. How do I turn in my documents? That's it. So everything else I'm showing you from here on out, excuse me, will be, you know, additional things in the platform you can use, but this is all you need to know to get paid. Is that you have to assign things to the checklist, and this is how your office knows that you've turned in your documents. So you don't have to physically drive to the office, and you don't have to call them or email them to let them know that your files are there. This is it. So I think in the past you used to send everything to that one docs email. This is what you would do in the future going forward for any new files you have, is you'd create the listing within SkySlope. And all of those documents are housed here. Your administrative staff has access to these files, but no other agents do. Only you as an agent can see these. The admins can see this as well, but that's it. Okay. So what I'm going to do now is show you, once the office has reviewed your file, how do they notify you of the status? So maybe something is missing, maybe you skipped a page when you scanned it in, or maybe they marked something new as required, say like a lead paint disclosure. So they'll send you an email that looks something like this. Go back here. Every time they review your file, you'll get an email like this. The subject will say SkySlope checklist reviewed, and it will have the address right there for your reference. And then it gives you this color-coded snapshot of the checklist. So you can see anything that's green has been marked as approved, so good to go there. Here's a newly marked red one, so the lead paint disclosure has been required for this file. And then I have one that's purple up here. My listing agreement has been marked as incomplete. And they will always put a comment if there's an incomplete file, meaning it's been rejected for some reason. Something's wrong with it. They'll always put in the comments exactly what that should be. So this one says the last page is not signed. So I know, okay, I need to go back and have that page signed and upload it. And then I also need to get my lead paint disclosure. We have a shortcut to log right into the system here, or you can go directly to the digital signature tool also as a shortcut. So both of these will just log you back into the system. So if I go back to SkySlope now, here's that comment box. So you can also write comments back and forth. So if I say, you know, we'll have new doc by end of day and hit save, this little arrow shows up. If you expand that arrow, you now see the back and forth between you and the broker or the admin, whoever is reviewing your file. Okay, now like I said, there's nothing that can be removed from this, and the documents area is your filing cabinet. So there are a few things you can do directly from the documents area as well. You can see there's a couple buttons up here. So if I wanted to send something directly out of here, I can. I can email it to someone directly from here. I can also send it with our DigiSign. This is our e-signature tool that I will be reviewing towards the end of the presentation. But there is a button here that easily takes you to it. As you enter contacts into the system, because I entered Jimmy Fallon when I created this file, you are building your own digital directory. So if you use this email button within the system, I can easily just start typing his name, and he pulls up as an option. So as you build your personal directory, you will be able to search different people. So you can email out of here, and anything that you email out of the system will automatically go to the log, which is the next thing I'm going to show you. So this email address also brings the message over. So the next tab is the log. The log is for compliance. This is where the broker, this is why the brokers love us. It captures everything that's done in the system. So you can see, since I created this file, everything I've done here is listed, including the email that I sent in right here. So if I click on this email received link, it opens up the exact email that I forwarded in, including the attachment that was there. And if you see, it's in the exact format. So you can track email communications by using that email address, just like you can for sending in attachments. So this email address right here will also track your emails. So if you want to use it as a CC when you're conversing with agents on the other side, or lawyers, or your client, all of that communication will be tracked here. If you don't want to have it as a CC and you want to forward in a chain of communication, you can do that as well. And then you can also use our email button as well, and they will always show up here. When you use the email button out of here, anything that people hit reply, they don't have to hit reply all. You do not have to CC this email address. Everything will automatically show up in the log if they're replying to an email that you sent from here. So it's just a nice little thing there. There's also a note button if you just want to enter a straight line item in the log, like an important phone conversation or something like that, or a conversation that you had in person. Go ahead and use that note field, and it will timestamp it and add it to the log. So the last tab here is tasks. This is a completely optional feature that you can use as well. So it's one of those bells and whistles as you feel more comfortable in SkySlope. But I'm sure a lot of you have a to-do list every time you create a new listing in the system or a transaction, like putting up a sign, scheduling the photographer, ordering staging, whatever the case may be. I have a template created for that. You can also add tasks one by one. But I'm going to go ahead and import my listing template, and it adds the few things that I always do every time I have a listing. Now, tasks can be synced to a calendar, so like a Google Calendar or an iCal. You can also set notifications for yourself, which I'll show you towards the end as well. When you're done with these, you just click them off, and you can also view anything that you've completed. We have completely dedicated tutorials for the tasks about how to create templates, how to do tasks, how to apply them, and that's all in our knowledge base as well. But tasks is here on every file that you create, so you can utilize those if you'd like. Now I'm going to go back and hit my home button here, the logo, brings us back to the dashboard. So just to recap, we started here in create listing. Now, once you have a couple listings in there, or you want to see your open listing, you'll see them under manage listings. So we're going to go there next. And everything that I have open is listed here. And all you do to open them up is click them one time. Now there's two buttons I wanted to point out over here, and I don't know what these drawing lines are, I apologize. But this first one, this no smoking symbol right here, is a withdraw listing. So if I click this, if for any reason you need to withdraw the listing, you would just go ahead and submit the reason why, and then submit it for approval. There might be a line item on your checklist that's if applicable, so that a release of some sort that needs to be signed by the seller. Once you submit this, it goes to this area down here for canceled listings pending approval. It does need to be approved by the office before it can be put into the canceled storage area of the platform. So once it's approved, you won't see it in here anymore. On a different note, if you, like I mentioned before, there's listings and transactions. Transactions are everything in contract. So once this listing has an accepted offer, you would then convert it to a transaction. So you'll notice this little checkbox button is accept contract. So once you click this, it just walks you through the steps to create a transaction, which is very similar to what we just did with the listing. You will have to pick a new checklist because there's more documents that are required on the transaction side. And then you'll have to enter additional contacts and commission information. And we'll go through that in just a second. But this is how you convert it to the transaction side. If you are within the file itself, there is a button on the checklist tab to do so also. Accepted contract right there. So you can also do it within the file. So going back to the main dashboard again, this is what we just went over, was listings. I am not going to go through creating a transaction. It is remarkably similar to the listing side. It's just step-by-step answering the questions. The one caveat is that the Sky Listing Assistant is currently only available on the listing side, but she is coming to the transaction side hopefully very soon. The last I saw was possibly by the end of September. That's not a firm date, but you will see that same assistant on the transaction side very shortly. But let me just go ahead and open up an existing transaction. So I'm going to go ahead and open up. It looks very similar to the managed listing side. All your transactions are listed below. But if I click this one and open it, when you create a new transaction, you're basically answering all of the red asterisk, the required items on the page. So instead of having the listing assistant asking you individual questions, you just fill out all the information here and hit next. And you do that until you get to the checklist. And that's the difference instead of having the assistant. There's a few differences also on the transaction page that I wanted to point out. You'll notice there is a checklist type, just like on the listing side, so choose accordingly. That will be the items you're required to upload. And then you'll notice there's also a type one here. So this is specifically, obviously a listing is a listing. There's no real differentiation there. If you have converted a listing to a transaction, it will automatically say listing sold. If you are representing the buyer only, I would choose sale. And only if you're representing both sides yourself would I choose both listing and sale. Just to clarify, if you are representing the seller and another agent-owned agent is representing the buyer, you would still have two completely separate files. The seller would have their listing and convert it to a transaction, and the buyer would have a transaction only. We still want to keep those completely separate because you don't want them to have access to all your communication and every piece of personal information from your contacts. So for conflict of interest reasons, we keep those completely separate. The other thing here is you'll notice there is an MLS number here. There's a button. We're kind of in interim with introducing our new MLS integration, which I showed you through Sky when she brought up the MLS when I entered that address. We also have an old one that hasn't been completely shut down yet, and that is this MLS search button. This is our older one. It is not completely reliable, so I recommend not clicking this search button. Please just go ahead and enter your MLS number and move on. This might pull up a different duplicate MLS from a different state because sometimes the numbers are the same nationwide. So I'd recommend in the interim, please don't use this, and I apologize for that inconvenience. But our new MLS integration is only in the assistant that asks you questions. On any file, you can add additional agents as well. You'll notice there's a co-buyer agent, but you can also do this on the listing side as well. All you do is go ahead and hit add, and you can search other agents within your company and hit save. You can add up to 5 per file. This is important if you do have a team dynamic, depending on the customization for your team. And again, please reach out to Mandy in the chat regarding team setup. But if you do need to add a co-agent, this is how you do so. And you can see the 2 that I've added to this file. The one thing here is that if you do grant access to another agent, they have complete access to this file. There is nothing you can hide from them. They have the same access as you, but only to files that you give them access to, not any of your other files. So you would just fill in all the information here and hit next. And that brings you to the next tab. So you just keep filling out the information and going next. So here you would fill out the additional contact information and go ahead and submit that. And then that brings you to the commission tab. This is an additional tab. You don't see this on the listing side, so this is only on the transaction side. And so for this, you would just need to fill out the information. This is a required section that will be used for the disbursement of payment, so please fill this out correctly. I'd fill in and make sure at the end when you have a copy of the HUD that you have gone over these numbers. So make sure you fill out anything that needs to be here. You'll notice there is a spot for a referral agent and either amount or percentage. And if you hit add, you can add their contact information here. And if you do have a referral agent, please be sure to upload that W-9 that is required. And then there's an area for a transaction fee or a coordinator if you've used that. If there's any specifications you need to make for closing, please put that in the additional commission breakdown details. This is a free form paragraph. You can add as much as you want in this, and this is what they'll use for any details you need to add. So say you paid for something up front and you're going to be reimbursed and closed, make sure you add that detail here so that the office knows that specifically. If you have done a commission split between different agents, you'll see all the agents on the file located here, and you can either designate a percentage or dollar amount. And then if there's any other commission breakdowns you need to add freeform, you can do so here. If you start typing someone, you automatically have the option to add someone else and just keep going, and you can add their information and the amount they get. There is a button at the top here that I wanted to point out. So once all the information on your commission tab is solid and confirmed, so most likely at the very end of close when you also have a copy of the HUD, you can use this transaction summary button. This is a static button. No matter what tab you're on, it shows up just like the status bar. But what this does is if I click this, it generates a PDF down here, and it basically summarizes these first 3 tabs: the transaction information, the contacts, and all of the commission information you entered. And it puts it in a nice like title sheet PDF. So if I open this, you'll see exactly what it looks like. And there's my transaction summary. So no matter what information you put in there, so if you do put a big a paragraph for the commission notes, it will just go into 2 or 3 pages depending on how much information is here. So the PDF will grow depending on what you've entered. But this PDF is important, this transaction summary, because it is a required item on your checklist. So let me close this. On the checklist itself, very similar to the listing side, you will most likely see an item that says transaction summary, and that is the item that you'd need to upload. So again, you can generate this at any time. I can keep generating this if I want, and there's another one that I just created. This is not a one-time only button. You can keep clicking it if you made changes and you need to make edits. Go ahead and make them, save them, and then click this again. But what you need to do then is go ahead and upload that one transaction summary directly to the checklist. It did not add it to my documents area. It is in the download for wherever I download things on my computer. So I would choose it from there and go ahead and upload it. So you can see I uploaded that directly by clicking attach, and I pulled it from my download area. So if you automatically download to your desktop, that's where it would be. So that's the transaction summary that you would need to attach to the checklist. So again, all of that information is pulled from the commission, but the transaction summary is on any page that you're on. All of the other tabs here are very similar to the listing side. There is an additional property tab as well, so you can enter like beds and bath and a description of the property if you'd like, but everything is also remarkably similar to the listing side. So if I go back to transactions, there's a shortcut here to go back to my transactions. You also see you have that cancel transaction, just like the withdraw listing on the listing side. Same thing, you enter in a reason why and you click submit, and then it puts it in the approval area, the pending approval area for the office to approve that. If you do have a converted listing and the buyer fell out, maybe the loan didn't go through, the appraisal didn't reach the amount they needed it to be, still submit the cancel. When it recognizes you have a listing attached to it, it will automatically ask you if you'd like to reactivate the listing. So just go ahead and hit yes, and then you'll see that listing back in your manage listings area. So here is that holding area for any of the cancels, just like the listing side. There's another area down here I wanted to point out, and that's this close transactions to be archived area. So the office will close and archive your files when they're completely done. If they are missing any paperwork from you, hopefully it's not this 21 incomplete items, and maybe it's just 1 or 2. But if you see anything listed here, this is a high priority area to pay attention to, because they can't archive this file until you've completed that checklist. So this could possibly hold up payment. So again, that's why it's a high priority area to pay attention to. If you have something here, it's been closed, but they cannot archive it yet. So make sure you get those last required items uploaded to the checklist. So I'm going to go back to the main dashboard. We've gone through the listings and the transactions, and I'm going to go through the items down here, and then we'll end with these last 2 things here, which is mainly the zip form integration and our e-signature tool. So right here is incomplete checklist. This is like a to-do area for you if you have documents that are still required for upload, or anything that's been marked incomplete that you still need to upload a new version. This is where you'll see all of those in one place. The canceled contracts area is where all of those approved cancels go for storage. So when those holding areas, when they disappear out of there, this is where they go. You can still search them and access them like before. Now the archives is where all your final closed files go to live. So anything that has closed successfully will be archived. You will access anything that you've had that you created or have been added as a co-agent to. You can search by client or address. You can open these just like you did before. You just can't change any information. Anything that's archived, you cannot edit. So if you'll notice, there is no next button down here because it will not let you save anything. So I could try to change the dollar amount on this thing to $1, and I can't. It just won't let me. So you can't change existing information. You can still access things though. So if I go to my documents on an archived file, I can still send something out. So if they want a copy of their contract, I can still email this to my client. I can still, if I click on this, I can still open the contract and download the PDF. You still have access to those things within the file. You just can't change existing information. So if for any reason this was archived and there's a major mistake on this file, contact your admin in your office. They're the only ones that can unarchive a file and make any changes and then re-archive it. Okay, so they would have to do that for you. All right, so if I go back to the archives though, there's an option, there's another option here for any of your files. You can also download, there's two options for download. One is you can download everything, that's the all documents. That also includes a copy of the log. Or you can download this checklist documents only, and that's only things attached to the checklist. Both of these options will download a zip file just directly to your download area, and that's how you can download your own archive. You'll notice there is no download all button on this entire page. They are individual downloads, and that's mainly for a performance reason. If we let everyone download huge files at the same time, it would crash the system. So you can download your own archive while you have an active SkySlope login. So if you want to do that, just go ahead and do that on a regular basis. Otherwise, everything for everything for SkySlope is stored in Amazon Web Services, which is pretty much the #1 cloud storage service in the country. All the Fortune 100 companies use it. Your files are very, very safe. So that was the archive. The last one here is tasks and reminders. This is where you can go to create those task templates I showed if you want like that to-do list. So you can create templates here. You can see everything that you have outstanding. And then this is also where you can sync it with your calendar, either iCal, Outlook, or Google Calendar. And again, there's separate tutorials specifically for tasks if you're interested in using that feature. Now I'm going to round out here on zip forms in the e-signature tool. Zip forms is located within working documents. If you notice, there is not a zip form icon on the main dashboard because we're nationwide and not everyone uses zip forms. But so if you go to working documents, this is where the integration lives. There's a few other tabs here that I wanted to point out. The first one is personal docs. Everyone that logs in has their own personal docs, and it is named that way because no one else has access to it. Not even the admins in your office like they do your property files. This is yours. So only me with my login can see this information. I can use this for whatever I want. I have unlimited free storage here with SkySlope. So if you're using, Dropbox or something like that that charges you to upload more data or more, to increase the file size, you don't have to. You could use this as an option, as an alternative. You can create your own folder structure here. One way I use this is, I have a folder for Oprah. If I'm representing the buyer, I can keep any offers here as a holding area until they're accepted because I'm not going to create my transaction until I'm in contract. You can create a transaction ahead of time if you want to, but if it doesn't get accepted, you're just going to have to cancel that out. So it's up to you what you'd like to do. I keep them here, and then once I'm ready and this has been accepted, I just go ahead and assign it to that property file once I have it created, or I can email it out, I can download it, whatever I need to, but you can assign it to any property file when you're ready. There is a DigiSign button here as well. You can send anything out for DigiSign. Anything that you send out that's not attached to a property file will always come back here to your personal docs. So I send things out all the time for personal reasons, and they always come back to my personal docs area. I think you'll notice I have sent things out. Yes. I am selling a condo, so this is to my father-in-law so he can sign something. So I use this for personal reasons all the time. All right, this is the truly one place where you can also delete. You'll notice there is a delete button here. This is the only place where you can delete the entire system of SkySlope. Otherwise, it just goes to that trash folder. So in personal docs, you can delete. The Office Docs tab here, this is where AgentOwned can share specific documents with you that might not be in zip form. So the one example that I have is if you have earnest money on a property that is canceled or falls through and they want that earnest money transferred to a different property, I believe that documentation will be available here as in the library. So this Office Docs acts as a library where you can access any of these PDFs. You still have the option to assign these directly to a property file or you send them out via e-signature tool, but if you click on the document itself, it opens up in its own tab and you can download this, print it, save it, whatever you need to do to it to personalize it. So again, it's a library where you can access things. So lastly is the ZipForm Plus, the ZipForm integration. When you first log in to SkySlope, you will be prompted to enter your ZipForm credentials one time. Please do so. You will be prompted 5 times. If you keep ignoring it, it will go away. But once you have them in here, you don't have to enter them again. It's a single sign-on, and we'll remember your credentials. But what happens is, this is a window into ZipForms. It's like an iframe. So anything that I have existing here, these transactions on the left, these are all the transactions that I already had created in ZipForms. SkySlope is just looking into my ZipForm account, so it sees everything I have in there. So here's the one I did on Friday, my test, and here's all the documents that I have included in that transaction. At any point, I can just select these and do the same thing. I can assign them to a property file if I'm ready, or if I have my personalized forms here, I can go ahead and send them out via DigiSign. So that's that new integration. If you wanted to use the DigiSign option, you can easily send them out from here. DigiSign will not be a button that you can click within ZipForms. You have to be within SkySlope to use our e-signature tool. Because I think one of the questions that came up was, will the e-sig button in ZipForms be replaced with DigiSign? And the answer is no. You'd have to be within SkySlope to use our e-signature tool. So you would be here and send them out like this. Now you can add more forms directly to any of your transactions, choosing from your library. I only have a demo library. I think you'll have 2 options here. And go ahead and add anything you want. You can also create brand new transactions from here as well. So if you are representing the buyer and you want to send out a quick offer, you can come directly here and hit create ZipForm transactions. And I'm going to say Lindsay Tuesday test. And just give an address here for my property. Go ahead and create. So what we allow you to do directly within SkySlope is choose one by one from your library. But I know some of you do apply those templates that just drop a packet of documents for a new listing. That's the one thing you would need to do directly within within ZipForms. And I apologize, I have a demo account, so it automatically adds a few things. But if I highlight this exact transaction that I just created, I can open this in ZipForms as well. We have a shortcut and it automatically logs you in and it just opens a tab directly to ZipForms. You can apply your templates here. Anything that's automatically added to that transaction, we will then see it. So let me just show you exactly what I'm talking about. I created that new transaction in SkySlope and I'm going to apply the template directly in ZipForms. Cancel that. So here is my apply templates. I'm going to apply a residential sale. And now it's applied. So if I go back to SkySlope and I refresh this, you'll see this has grown. Because it automatically sees any of the docs. See there. Now all of those documents that I have in this transaction are viewable to me. So anything you do in ZipForms, we see in SkySlope. It's just that if you want to apply those templates, you do have to do so in the ZipForm tab specifically. And you just do so by clicking that. Again, you're logged in directly. So now if I wanted to send my offer, I just go ahead and send whatever I need to and use DigiSign. And I'm going to walk through the DigiSign tool right now. So that is the ZipForm integration. Again, we have lots of resources about that and support as well. And if you have any questions about it, you can always reach out to support. But that is the general workflow for the ZipForm integration. Now I'm going to go back to the main dashboard. Like I showed you, there is a DigiSign button pretty much everywhere. It's in any one of the property files that you have. It's also in all 3 tabs in Working Docs, the Personal, Office, and ZipForm integration. But I'm going to start on the main dashboard here for the DigiSign Hub. Because this is where you'd go to see anything that you've previously completed, anything you sent out that you might be waiting on signatures for, drafts, and templates. So Linda I forget what office she's in. I think she's in the remote office, but Linda has graciously created all templates for you for every single ZipForm document that you have available. So I'm going to walk through how to apply those templates right now. So we're going to create a new envelope. All right, so you'll see there's two options here. If you are representing the buyer and you're sending out an offer, you probably don't have a listing or a transaction created, a transaction created within SkySlope yet. So you would choose this no property option, meaning you're not assigning it to one of your existing properties down here. And really this is doing anything that comes back signed will go to that personal docs area that I showed you under working documents. So you can choose this when you're representing the buyer and sending out an offer. For me though, I'm going to go ahead and choose the property that I was using, which was 2407. So that's the listing that I created earlier. I'm going to go ahead and choose that one. So because then anything signed will automatically go back to this file in the documents area. So if you do have the property created, always select it, just makes your life easier. So I'm going to go ahead and send out my listing agreement. I can choose more than one document at the same time. You'll notice they just stack on top of each other. You can also change the order of these if you want to drag and drop things and make the seller advisory go first, totally up to you. And then you would just apply each template to each document. But for my purposes, I'm just going to get the listing agreement this time and go ahead. Oops, sorry, I'm going to go back. My apologies. I am going to apply a template here. So you choose the template and you just choose the name. It will be named exactly after the file, I believe. For me, this is my listing agreement that I just created this month, and I'm going to hit done. So I have a template applied, and I'm going to hit next. Now it pulls up all of the signers that template automatically has. The template might have two sellers automatically added to it. Notice here there's Jimmy and a seller. I only have one seller though, so I can just uncheck this blank one. Because it's based, and this is saying, do you want to remove the blocks from the template? Yeah, that's fine. It's easier to remove extra people than it is to add all the signature blocks on, 8 pages. So the template might have more signers than you actually are sending to. Just uncheck who you don't want. For me though, I have it me signing and then him signing. I'm going to get rid of myself, but you can add signer groups here. If you want people to sign in a certain order, you can just drag and drop them to the right area. So if I want to go first and only Jimmy goes once I'm done signing, you can do that. Otherwise, everyone can sign at the same time if it doesn't matter. So you have a couple options there. If you do want someone just to receive a copy, go ahead and add them as a recipient, say like a lawyer or maybe your broker, and then just drag them to the only needs a copy area. So for our purposes, I'm just going to get my seller to sign, and I'm going to show you the interface here. So this opens up to all the functional buttons at the top. Once you notice they highlight when you hover over them, I'm going to go ahead and click on initials. This is a one-click, not drag and drop. So if you click one time, the initial box gets added. So if I scroll down, you'll see the template already applied by initial box there. If I need to add another one for any reason, you can. Maybe I missed one and be like, oh, I need something signed over here. You can easily add another initial box. If there's more than one person that needs to sign, you just toggle between who is designated for that box and choose accordingly. So again, the template already applied my boxes here, so I really don't need to do anything. And you'll notice here on the left, anything with that little blue pen means there is something being signed on that page. So I think I have them on the first 3 pages, and then I also have it on the last page. So if I click down on page 8 here, it auto scrolls down to the bottom, and you can see that I've added a signature box and then a date sign box. And again, you just highlight on the box and click, and you can move this around, whatever you need to do. There's also a date sign box, and there's a few other boxes here as well. I'll show you in just a moment, the writable and read only, and then there's a full name box that enters their name. So the template pretty much applies everything as you need to. You can change the template. You can delete things, move things around, add to it. The template's not set in stone. It just helps you out, making it easier for you. So I'm going to go ahead and send this off. If you need to change the subject or message in any way, go ahead. Otherwise, just go ahead and send it out for signature. Now, let me show you what this looks like from the recipient point of view. So I just sent that off to my client. He's going to get an email that looks exactly like this. It's from me. His name is in the subject line. If you do have like a married couple sharing an email address, go ahead and add them as separate recipients, and then their name will be in the subject line specifically for them. So they'll get their own email their own email signature, their own email to sign. So if I open this, this will be branded to Agent-Owned, but I'm in my demo account, so it's branded to me. And then just go ahead and review and sign. They don't have to create an account or anything like that. Everything is online. So if they have email on their phone, they can easily do this on their phone. I know I do this on my phone all the time. So I just choose a signing style, make sure my name and initials are correct, and then hit agree to the terms. And then they can just hit start, or they can scroll manually, up to them. So I just click on where I need to sign. Again, if they're answering email on their phone, they can do this on their phone. And then there's that last signature box. They can return to the document if they want, or just submit it. Once they submit, they automatically have the option to download it. And if there's multiple signers, they will get a follow-up email that lets them download the final version with everyone's signature. So let me go back to SkySlope. Now, I chose the property when I sent that out. So let me show you what that looks like. I can go to manage listings, but I also wanted to show you there is a search bar up here that you can search anything that's not archived or canceled, and it will bring up your file. So for me, my address was 2407, and there it is. So if you just click on it, it opens the file directly. Now, if I go to the documents area, that signed e-signature document that I sent out is right there at the top. This is, most recent documents are always going to be at the top. Anything you send out that was signed via DigiSign will have DigiSign at the end. Now, my pop quiz I usually do in person is, has this been turned into the office? And the answer is no, because you still have to assign it to the checklist in order for anyone in your office to know you've turned it in. This, again, is your filing cabinet. Only, they can see it, but they're not notified. So we need to get this on the checklist. So you'll see here the listing agreement I had before. I can say I only got one page instead of all 8 re-signed. Maybe I got just the last page signed. You can attach more than one item to this checklist item. So I can just attach the new one and have 2 documents attached to this. Or I can remove the original one. And remember, you can't delete anything from the system, so I am not removing this completely. I'm just unattaching it from the checklist. And then if I attach the new one, I can either upload directly or choose from my documents, and I want to choose that new DigiSign signed one right there. So once I assign that, now it's turned into the office and I'm done. So anything you send out via DigiSign and you assign it to your file will always show in your documents, and then you can just attach it to your checklist. You can also split this if you had multiple documents at once. So again, you can use that split tool and auto assign it to the checklist at the same time. Now, say you need to make corrections, because I know DocuSign has that strike-through, the strike-through option and things like that. We don't necessarily have a designated strike-through, but let me demonstrate how you would make changes to a signed contract. So here I would send out the signed contract directly from my documents and just hit this DigiSign button. So instead of sending the original one, I'm going to send the already marked up signed one. I wouldn't apply a template because I'm going to do freeform fields. I already have that one chosen, so I'm just going to go ahead and hit next. I just want my seller to sign, so again, I'm going to hit next. And here, instead of using signature and initials, what I would do is, if for any reason I want to, in essence, strike through something on the contract. Where's my price? I don't even have my price here, but let's say this is something on the contract I want to strike through. Just go ahead and highlight it, and then either do a dash or an X or whatever it needs to be, and then this moves right on top of it. So he won't see the blue box when it's read-only. It just becomes part of the contract. So if you do that, I would add like an initial box next to it, and you can resize the initial box, and maybe a date signed option as well right there. So that way they just initial the changes. And if you want them to fill anything out, you would use that writable field somewhere. So if you can, this field, he would be filling out. So like a seller's questionnaire or something like that, you can make this as big or as small as you want. And then he has free form to enter anything in here that he needs to. And again, you can add an initial box next to that, etc. So there's checkbox options, but the read-only becomes part of the contract that you enter, and writable means you're obviously having an open text box for them to fill something out. And so once you send this out, again, it will show up in your documents for that file once it's approved. And then again, you would attach it to the checklist just like we did before. But this is how you could make edits to an already signed contract. And again, if you want to see anything that you've sent out or in drafts, you would obviously go to the DigiSign Hub right there on the main page. So lastly, I just wanted to show you a couple settings that you have. Under your name here, there is a My Account option. There's a couple things you can do here, and the most important I'd say is please fill out your address information, because if you do contact support and they don't respond to you within one of those guaranteed response times, this is where they send your $5 Starbucks card. So very important. Please put your address in here, because this is where you would get a $5 Starbucks card. I mentioned if you're using those tasks, you can set notifications for yourself. This is where you would do that. There's task email notifications and a couple options. Otherwise, you can sync these to your calendar as well, or do both, but you have that option. And there's a few things for listings and transaction notifications you can set as well. Again, these are optional. There's also a signature that you can set. So if you are using the email within the file itself, you can set a signature that will automatically show up. You can change your password here. You can also manage your own personal directory. Like I mentioned, as you enter contacts into the system, you're automatically building your own directory here. So this is where you can do so. You can delete contacts, you can upload multiple. I would recommend downloading our sample file. But if you can click on any one of these and make edits or delete them completely. And the last thing here is integrations. If for any reason you have ignored the zip form pop-up that you'll see 5 times in a row, this is where you would have to come to enter your zip form credentials. And again, if you forget where this is, support can point you in the right direction every time. So again, in the chat area, I have put some information. I'm going to paste it again to everyone in chat. And that is specifically, please reach out to Liz S at AgentOwnedRealty.com for your welcome email. And also, if you have any questions regarding the DigiSign sign-up form, because I believe if you want to purchase it is $7 a month. The discount is going away on the 31st. So if you have any questions about that, please contact Mandy Timmons. Her email is right there in the chat. And also, if you have any questions, if you're on a team, she should be reaching out to you, but please ask her about your specific setup. And also, I put the SkySlope support number in there, but it will be in your welcome email when you receive that as well. So I know we went a little bit over. I'm totally open to take any questions that anyone has, so please feel free to put them in the chat, and I'll go ahead and go over those today. Otherwise, if you need to drop off and get going, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it, and we look forward to having you as a SkySloper. So you can get the DigiSign form from your admin in your office. Please reach out to them and they will be able to give that to you so that you can enter in your credit card information. And I believe if you have your credit card information on file, you just need to let them know that you want it transferred. But your admins should have that for you. And if you wanted to test out DigiSign for the next 3 days, it should be turned on when you get your welcome email. So you do have the option to test it out and then choose to purchase it if you want to, starting on the 1st. I do have a question in here. When setting up a new transaction, if an agent chooses the wrong checklist initially, can it be changed by just clicking on the correct checklist? Yes, excellent question. Let me demonstrate here. The only thing I want to point out is, so what she's saying is if you do create a transaction, so say this is a brand new transaction I created, and for some reason I chose the wrong option. Maybe I chose residential lease versus traditional sale or something like that. And so it has all the wrong documents here. On the transaction tab, you can change it. If there's anything that's been uploaded or approved on your checklist already, the one thing is it will unattach everything. So if it's been approved, you have to reattach it, and it's going to need to be reapproved. But if it's this something that you haven't done anything yet and you haven't attached anything to your checklist, just go ahead and choose the right one. See, it gives you a warning. It's going to detach the docs and they'll need to be manually reassigned. Say yes, change the checklist type, and then go ahead and save it. So again, if you have anything attached already, it will unattach. So if you go to my checklist now, there's nothing on there. It's now required, even though I had things in there before. So you absolutely can. If you chose the wrong type of property, you can change it. Just make sure that you haven't uploaded anything yet, or you'll just need to reassign those. Please feel free to put any other questions in the chat. I'd be happy to review those while we're on the line still. And again, don't forget you have that 24/7 support right here. So if you forget everything I just told you, they are here to help you and point you in the right direction. All right, I don't see anything else coming through on the chat, and I do see some people dropping off. So I'm going to go ahead and end the webinar now. Thank you, everybody, for spending, you're close to lunchtime. I know it's lunchtime around there. Hopefully everyone can go get a bite to eat. But I appreciate your time today. We're very happy to have you at SkySlope. Thanks so much for joining. Bye-bye, everybody.